Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 28th of September, comes to you from London. And a sea of green on the screen today. So, really, just markets giving up any gains. The dollar strength is really pushing forward these upside targets. We had a downside and upside target. The upside target won. No big surprises there, making new highs again. Dollar strength continues, so that means that lots of other things are falling. So that's really the main theme. The energy mix, we're seeing quite a mixed picture this morning. We put our reports out, but we'll go through the energy mix in a minute. And again, we're seeing all these alerts and targets coming through. TTF, interestingly, up several percent, up 9% this morning. And when it was only up a couple of percent, we actually went out as bullish in our report. You can see the daily report there. We were bullish on TTF, but pretty well everything else was either neutral or bearish. Emissions was another one where we had downside targets, and I note from those alerts that we have new downside targets kicking in since then. So these were the downside targets this morning when we put our report out. New downside targets. That's the key thing, is the report's the start of the day, but it's watching how the picture evolves through the rest of the day. And of course, you can set these alerts up in your system really simply. You just add into these lists. The alerts are all preset in your enterprise system, so all you have to do is add in the list, or you can copy the list that I have. But realistically, you can just put in your Bloomberg, your Icon, or your Trayport tickers into this. And of course, Updata does run on multiple data services, so you can literally choose from dozens of different data services on the fly just to feed straight into your Updata system. So these alerts are how I set this up. And my very short-term alerts on the 1-minute charts, I don't want too many alerts, just the things I'm really watching closely. Then the short-term on the 60-minute charts, and then the medium and longer-term alerts, there are bigger lists, which is why you'll see some of these moves. So the VIX volatility, for example, has moved to bullish on the cloud. Gold has hit a 90-bar low. These are the alerts that come in, and you'll see here very short term. So all you have to do is just copy into the list, or download the list I have, and you'll get those alerts through the day on the 1-minute charts, just telling you all the new targets. And looking at the markets in gas and power, all European power markets yesterday were pretty much lower. This is data coming in from OTC Global Holdings, which is included as standard with your Updata system. So we see here that Italian power, interestingly, is pulling back. And then if I look at my UK screen, gas and power, UK summer power is just seeing summer 23 just starting to fall back through that support level. That downside target, notice, was given at around 320, back to 242. That was given and met. You really can't ignore the targets on this data. Really, really valuable to watch that. So that's all gas and power markets in Europe you're able to watch and cover in Updata. And this data comes as standard within your Updata system, along with the reports. And of course, we produce those reports monthly for all the energy markets. So we produce the global reports, which cover 100 different instruments, and then the energy reports, the special reports, gas and power for Europe. So it'll be interesting to see this month's report out at the end of the week. So really quite interesting. So coming back to markets, we see the euro sitting at 95 cents. No big surprises there. Our report on the euro back in February gave a downside target when we were at 111 of 95. That's where we've got to. The targets were there all the time. Japanese yen, we're seeing now at 144. The dollar just surging higher there. Upside targets much, much higher. Sterling, of course, has been in the news, sitting at 106.72, falling back. That's as much on dollar strength as it is on sterling weakness. We're down 0.5%, certainly down more than other currencies, but the euro is down 0.4%, so not a lot different. And then if we look at sterling against the euro, it's only down 0.1%. We see this great big potential star doji here. So this will be quite interesting to see how we close that week. This is the weekly chart, remember, the weekly, daily, and 60-minute, long-term, medium-term, and short-term. So this could be just forming a little bit of a bottom based on that candle, but we do have, and the targets on the euro sterling rate are not as clear as they are on the sterling dollar rate. We've got targets to parity, and those targets have been in place since 2016 and 2017. Those targets were given, so those were the long-term targets. We're just going there. You cannot ignore the targets. You want to get them set up on your system. Again, you can run Updata on top of pretty much any data service you want to get these extra value of the technical analysis there. So looking at the Bitcoin, we're sitting at 18,600. We've been saying for ages it's game over for Bitcoin. That's pretty clear. The S&P 500 index deteriorated yesterday. Couldn't hold on to the gains. We're below the cloud on the weekly now. That's bearish, long-term bearish with downside targets. And notice how these upside targets have been negated. They've come off the chart with the new lows. We've lost those upside targets. So that's really quite key. And we've been talking about these downside targets for ages. Another 10% lower. We'll then have a thrust and then another lower target. So we are in bear territory, and we've been saying that for some time. And interestingly, we had the futures up yesterday, but we couldn't hold on to the gains, and we ended up closing lower. The same today. The futures are actually down 1%, so we are going to open lower. Downside targets on the 60-minute chart. You really cannot ignore these targets if you're trading. And of course, if you're trading the futures, use the 1-minute targets, and they were absolutely fantastic. The VIX volatility well above the 30 level now. We are in the fear index there, so that's really quite key. Looking at the Ftse future back below 7,000, so falling away there. The DAX in Germany down 2.2% today, really just falling. We are in bearish territory there, go below the cloud, and we broke that 12,500 level, which we said we needed to hold, which we haven't. We've got downside targets of 7.5%, 8.5% lower on the DAX. Can't ignore those. Looking at Asia, we saw that China was down 1.5%. That's in bearish territory. The Aussie market down 0.75%, not as bad. So India was down 0.75%. So just holding, looking a little bit better. And the Aussie market was down 0.5%. Again, not as bad, but below the cloud, which is bearish. We'll look at the energy mix in more detail in a minute. We've got some soft commodities up. Wheat is up another 0.5%. That's quite interesting. That long-term trend is still very much in train. We're seeing gold falling lower. 16.17 is the level on gold. Bearish on all 3 time frames. The gold bulls can't work this out. Precious metals run last. Remember to read our monthly reports where we talk about the big cycles. Gold is yet to move, and we're seeing all the precious metals selling off as a result. Looking at the 10-year yield, sitting just on 4%, nudging that 4% level on the US, and we're going to have a new upside target here. The same on the 30-year yield in the US. No big surprises there. We've been calling bond markets lower for ages. The yield's going higher. 4.5% is the target there on the 0.5% chart. And of course, we will get new targets as well. So that's going to be quite key. Taking a look at the energy mix now. Brent crude is down this morning. We were neutral. We had targets in both directions. A pretty hard call on the daily and the 60-minute chart. The daily we are bearish. The 60-minute chart we're bearish with these downside targets into the 70s. So no big surprises there. WTI sitting at $78. The spread between Brent and WTI now at around $8. So that's really opened out. US nat gas is actually up 1%, but we do have downside targets here hanging over us as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that trades when we get into the US hours. Looking at coal, we are sitting at 270, back into short-term bearish territory, and we've activated downside targets to around 200. So it looks like coal is going to come off. Gas prices, as we mentioned, are up this morning. The leak in the Baltic is causing some issues, and we're seeing markets just bouncing there. We were bullish on TTF this morning. MBP up some 14%. Bouncing on the cloud, these long-term trends are still holding bullish on that lagging line. So it's by no means over this run in gas prices. And looking at German power, we're sitting at 500 euros again. We are sticking to this 500 euro mark like glue for German power. And so that is really the level to watch. A move below 470 now is what we really need to watch. And there are downside targets as a result of that. Follow the targets. You really cannot ignore them. If you want to take a trial of the reports or of Updata running on your system, just let me know. Just send me a message. That's it for today. Tomorrow I'm in Dubai seeing clients, so looking forward to that. and I will be doing charts today, a slightly different hour of the day there, but hopefully we'll get it out to you. Remember, you can subscribe to chartstoday.com and you'll get it every morning in your system. Until tomorrow, happy charting, hang in there, see you then.